Again, that is Wade VanDover, our third speaker today, and he's a South Dakotan. Wade grew up in the Aberdeen area. After graduation, he completed his undergraduate degree in environmental sciences in 1986 from Northern State University in Aberdeen, and then earned a Bachelor of Science degree in physical therapy in 1988 from the University of Oklahoma in Oklahoma City. In July of 1990, Wade and Paul Trinan started Big Stone Therapies Incorporated. Besides treating patients whenever he can, he also is in charge of new clinics and programs, marketing, professional development, and working with the management team. Wade and his wife Cindy raised their family near Big Stone City, South Dakota. They are all very active in the outdoors with hunting and fishing, and they're also very involved in the community and in the Catholic diocese and their parish. Please join me in welcoming Wade VanDover.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to do something between Dr. Knott and Andreas, as I'm going to walk around up on stage. Although the stage is a little bit wobbly. I grew up in north central, northeast South Dakota on a farm, a little town called Westport. Was a member of the great Sacred Heart Parish in Westport, South Dakota. And as they mentioned, I went to school at Northern State University and the University of Oklahoma. It was after my internships in physical therapy that I decided I kind of wanted to come back to South Dakota. Dallas, Virginia, Colorado, the big towns, just didn't seem to settle right for me. So I came back and started my first job in St. Luke's in Aberdeen, South Dakota. And right next to me, this wild, crazy guy came in a couple days after I did, a physical therapist, and parked in the desk right beside me. And after a couple years of running around, we got a wild, crazy idea. And that wild, crazy idea was we were going to go to Alaska. Well, I think we got talked out of that by our brides. And continued conversations over time, we said, let's start our own business. And so the two of us took a call from a recruiter. That recruiter slipped the name of the town. Usually when they're trying to recruit you, they don't tell you where they're going to send you till they get you signed up. And they slipped the name of the town, and we ended up in Ortonville, Minnesota. We got in front of 4 hospital CEOs and several small towns. We walked in and said, we're the greatest therapists in the United States of America. You should hire us. And they actually must have believed this, or they were really desperate because they hired us. So we started our own first business. It's called Big Stone Therapies. That's kind of how I got into the business world. There were 2 of us. Today, Big Stone Therapies is in 3 states. Officially today, we have 300 employees in about 30 clinics. So from the very beginning, we wanted faith to be a part, integrated into who we were and how we operated. This is my family, and they're a big part of that. So my oldest son, Joseph, my beautiful bride, Cindy, Claire, Paul, Danny, Mark, and myself were out at Rapid City. Our whole life has been related to our business and our faith and the great outdoors. I don't know about you. It's an interesting time that we live in. Maybe it's no different than any other time we've lived in. But if you watch the headlines, you look at those things, I'd say it's a tough time to be a Christian. It's a tough time to be a Catholic. It seems like the narrative on the things that are good, the sanctity of life, the things that are right, the sanctity of marriage, and the things that are true, religious freedom, have been twisted, changed, and there's a loud voice in our society saying they're bad, wrong, and false. I'm not sure how that happened, but it seems to me that that's what's happened. As a business owner, as a business worker, as a manager, as a staff member. We have all these other things coming at us: profits, leadership, HR problems, regulation, policy, legal issues, hiring staff, growing. How does one keep track of it? Watch the nightly news, go into work the next day, and have that in front of you. What's the answer? I've come to a conclusion. And I'd like to start with Matthew 5:13-16. The conclusion is, I am not big enough to handle all of this. Therefore, I need God. Matthew 5 says, you are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its taste, with what can it be seasoned? You are the light of the world. A city set on a mountaintop cannot be hidden. I'm not big enough to handle the nightly news, the political election, problems in business that I face, and the challenges. But God is. God's big enough, He's salty enough, and He can light my lamp. What they've asked me to do is tell you my story. How does God put salt back into my soul? How does He put oil in my lamp so that I can be salty enough and bright enough for the challenges that I face every day? Here's what it seems to me. It's pretty easy in America, and maybe, Andre, you can say in the rest of the world or in Europe, to have a transactional relationship with God. I'm going to put something in the vending machine, and He's going to give me red vine licorice. I like red vine licorice. I'm going to put some money in, and He's going to give me barbecue chips. That transactional, I'm going to show up on Sunday, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get something out. But what God really wants is He wants to transform us into His image and His likeness. We're broken. You all have challenges. We're broken at heart as a people. Watch the nightly news. The world needs us, maybe more than ever, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was tough during World War II. The world needs us to have salt in our soul, light in our lamp. We need to shine in the value of the work we do and make a difference. So, how does that happen for me? I'm going to treat this like a business plan. I'm going to give an objective. I'm going to create some strategies and tell you some things that have worked for me. So, the first objective. All right, I'm going to give you the strategy first. Number 1, befriend your priest, nun, or deacon. Father Bill, whoa, that's the wrong button. Father Bill Osborne, in high school, good friend, got me to go to my first search. My first search is where God took a 2x4 and hit me alongside the head and said, I love you. That was an amazing thing for me to hear and understand, that God actually loved me. Father Bob, back there, came my senior year of high school. I got a quick story about Father Bob. I'll try not to get emotional. But Father Bob, we were at a football game. We were undefeated the first year of the South Dakota high school playoffs. We were playing another ranked team. It was close. I walk up to the line of scrimmage. I look at the defense. I call an audible. The audible works. Running back goes 70 yards for a touchdown. Tied game. Walk up to the line of scrimmage. Call another audible. Run down the line. Fake the pitch. Dive into the end zone. We're up by 2. Big pile. Somebody on the other team grabbed my face mask and punched me in the nose. And I had a bloody nose. But you know how it is in a small town South Dakota football playoffs. Everybody's going crazy. You know what that's like. I run off to the sideline and I'm yelling some not so nice things. Kick him in the you know what and take that. And I'm bleeding all over my white uniform, which is dirty already. And I turn around and there's Father Bob. I don't even know if he remembers this. And the look of disappointment changed me. Befriend your priest or your nun. Went to college, Father Mike Kelly, Newman Center. He says to a bunch of us guys that were living in the house, he says, you take care of my body, I'll take care of your soul. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, Father Mike would show up at our door. And we'd go and we'd run down to the Y and we'd run back. And he would drag us to the Newman Center week after week after week. See that little nun from presentation? Sister Alico, one of the first physical therapists in the state. She took me in under her wing in high school and in college, and she said, you should be a physical therapist. You're going to be great at it. Okay? Now, I had Father Bob saying, hey, you should be a priest. I think you'd be great at it. So we had a nun and a priest pushing me in a different direction. She went out. Sister Francelle Clark, when I was in college, she led the search program in Aberdeen, South Dakota. And in that program, young people from all over the state, sometimes 200, 300 people would come in and she'd do a Christian retreat. Remember, Father Bill sent me there in the first place. I got hit with a 2x4 by the Holy Spirit, and we worked side by side with her for many years. James Morgan, the guy that said the priest. Jim, do you remember when you got hit with a 2x4 at church? James Morgan ran around that gym. And I think it's what David probably looked like when he danced, when he came back in front of the Lord. So she had a great impact. What's the objective of befriending your priest, your nun? Oh, your deacon? That guy that I started Big Stone Therapies with, he did something amazing. He said, I felt called. And in his regular work life, he went on to college and did work for, was it 5 years, Paul? Became a deacon, working side by side. That changes you. So the objective, the first strategy I would suggest to you is if you're going to be transformed, is befriend your priest, your nun, your deacon. This guy here's my brother-in-law. It's nice to have a priest in the family, especially when you're on trips and you need to get to Mass. That's a pretty nice thing. And this is our current pastor. I'm going to talk about him in a minute. The objective, the business objective for your soul is that you'll have many holy people praying for you, and if needed, you will have a trusted advisor. Strategy number 1. That's worked for me. Strategy number 2, confession. I'm going to back up. Dr. Naughton or Andre, you can correct me if my theology is wrong here when we talk about this. But I just learned something 3 years ago. It's amazing. I wish somebody would have told me this. And it has to do with temptation, sin, and virtue. There's the 7 capital sins: pride, greed, lust, envy, anger, gluttony, and sloth. They're the 7 capital sins. I've committed them all. And I suppose most of you have as well. What I did not know is how temptation works. I did not understand that. It begins with a simple thought. Hey, wow, she looks nice. Simple thought. Okay? Next, wow. Not only is she nice, I wonder what that would be like. Third, simple thought, you imagine thought, you delight in it. I know what that would be like. That would be kind of nice. 4, there's an evil inclination. You realize at that point, oh, it's that devilish grin. And then, lastly, you give into it. Here's what I'm bad. Here's what I did not understand. I thought I could walk right up to the edge of this thing, right to level 4 or 5. I could stand there and be close to that and not fall off the edge. That's what I thought. And I failed, and I failed, and I failed. The strategy: stop temptation early. If you have a way right up there in 1 and 2 in a simple thought, or you're delighting in the thought, here's what I do. I have a simple line. If I see a beautiful woman of God, Eve, I say, thank you, Lord, for her beauty and her purity. I say that in my mind. That stops the rest of it. So my strategy or suggestion to you to transform yourself and to avoid the capital sins is have a way to stop temptation. Don't walk right up to the edge and think you're not going to fall off. What's the objective? I also found that trying to conquer these sins in my life is I wasn't availing myself enough of the grace of the sacrament. I go to confession weekly. I did it quarterly. I made not much progress. I did it monthly. I made a little progress. Now I go weekly. Before I came down here this weekend, I met with my confessor, Padre David, and I said, do I got to still keep coming weekly? He said, yeah, I really think you need to. So the strategy I'm suggesting to you is to find a confessor, to conquer this in your life, whatever those sins are, and avail yourself of the grace of that sacrament on a regular basis, even if it means going weekly. The objective: you will begin to purify your personal and business motives. You will change how you look at your family and your business life, and you will receive an immeasurable amount of grace that will allow you to handle the tough stuff. Because tough stuff's coming. So if you're not going to confession on a regular basis, that's something that's worked very well for me. Next strategy, try to get an objective. That's Mom and Dad, Ken and Elaine VanDover. We grew up loving the outdoors. We had this old canvas tent. They would take us to places and fish, and we'd go hunting, and we'd be in the outdoors. Here they are in Texas. Their dad's a little over 80, Mom's pushing 80. He still works 12 to 14 hours a day. You know, we tried to get, Andreas and Dr. Naughton, we tried to get my dad to quit working, and it was almost a fist fight. And you know, and both of what you said today gives me perspective on how we have to honor him and let him work. Even though sometimes safety might be a little bit of a challenge, we have to honor him and allow him to do that. But they were diligent about going to Mass. We didn't miss. Wherever we were, we went to Mass. That's the Wabe Parish right there. One of the memorable trips is we were camping at Roy Lake, and on the way there, we came upon a car accident. A group of folks were in a car accident. One person actually died while we were there. We still went to Mass after that. None of us could remember if we got there late, got there on time. We know we went to Mass. We finished Mass. That set an indelible mark that they went even after helping in a situation like that. Got to college. Father Lamberty was there when I first got to college, right before Mike Kelly came. And I went to a party at the bar. And boy, I slept in that day. And it wasn't like, back then you didn't have 7 o'clock Mass or 6 o'clock Mass on Sunday night at the colleges like you do now. So you could actually get to something. I slept so late that there was no opportunity for me to go to Mass. After the example they had set for me, I was pretty bummed out. I went and talked to Father Lamberty next week, went to confession, and he said something that stuck with me. Very amazing. That's the beauty about going to confession. Sometimes you think they're going to pat you on the back, and they kick you in the pants. And sometimes you think they're going to kick you in the pants, and they pat you on the back. There's a spiritual insight that the confessor has that I never get it right if I'm going to get a kick or a hug. So anyway, he said to me this. He didn't smile. He said, do this sin no more. Do this sin no more. In other words, don't skip the Sabbath. So I'm encouraging you to keep the Sabbath. I have not missed a Mass since then. That left that big of a mark on me. This is Alaska. We go on hunting trips up in Alaska. Sometimes it's 4 to 6 hours. You lose a half a day or a day of hunting. This is one of our little parishes up there that we attend, but we go anyway. The last couple times, the guys that we're hunting with, Grubble, go hunting the next day, 11 caribou. They've never gotten 11 caribou in one day in their life. The next year, 13 caribou. Okay, so I don't know, we just can't, I don't know if God works quite like that, but we can't outgive God. And then this, this is a shameless commercial. I got a couple of them in here. This is the Bishop's Charity Fishing Tournament. It's an outdoor mass. It's a wonderful event. If you love fishing or you want to get involved in something at the diocese, it's a great event. One of the things that my commitment to the Sabbath and attending Mass has done for me, it's given me a great love for our seminarians and a great love for our priests. And we have some priests in the back of the room right there. I want everybody to give these guys a round of applause. Those early slides that I showed about it's tough to be a Catholic, I think it's even tougher to be a priest today. So befriend your priest, not only for yourself as motive, in that personal objective, they need us too. So befriend your priest for them. The objective of honoring the Sabbath and making a commitment to regular worship service or attending the Mass is it will improve your resolve to the commitments you have in your personal and work life. And this is what's important. This is what I found. It's given me the moral courage that I need today to stand up to the things I face. If I wasn't as committed as I am to that attendance, it would be difficult. We go on vacation and we leave God out of it. What happens if you take and say, the summit of my vacation is going to be planned around Mass and attendance at Mass, and then everything else comes after that? We just went to Florida as a family. We did that. We went over Easter. We left our traditional Easter stuff, and we found this cool little parish down in the Keys. I contacted the priest ahead of time, and he knew we were coming. We met him, and the Easter vigil pushed 4 hours. You know, we got there and they handed us candles. They were big. They burned through the candles. They were all the way down. There was nothing left. We were down to the nubs. The kids had to put the candles out. Our kids will never forget that Mass. They will never, as much as they complain about it, they will never forget that Mass. Hopefully that'll be a lasting memory. Befriend your priest, nun, deacon, pastor. It will transform you. Make a commitment here and today to not miss anymore. To take God with you on your vacation. Plan your trips, your hunting trips, your vacations around it. I'm going to British Columbia September 10th. Thank you, honey, so much for letting me go. I'm taking my daughter bear hunting. I've already contacted the parish priest, had 4 or 5 emails with him. He's looking forward to meeting this. We're planning that trip. My flight's in and out around getting to Mass. It's a beautiful thing. Another thing that's transformed us. I'm going to thank Paul, my partner from the very beginning. We wanted to do a couple things in our business. This is one of them. We wanted to pray in the workplace. Prayer really starts from within you in your personal prayer life. And so, but how do I pray in the workplace? I'm just an employee. I'm a manager. I'm in a hostile environment. I couldn't see who brought up diversity. That doesn't necessarily mean hostile. How can I implement prayer in the workplace? Well, first of all, it starts with your own personal prayer. Second of all, here's some suggestions. Before every meeting that you go into, pray. Stop at your desk and pray for the situation. Write it down, however you got to do it, schedule it. Before every meeting you go into, pray. Number 2, if you have influence in your organization, You can invite people to pray. I'll make a suggestion. Does anyone mind if I pray before we start this meeting? Now, if you got to clear that from the higher ups, and I understand that, but if you have influence or you own your company, you can begin your meetings now, today, tomorrow, and you don't have to force it on it. You don't have to be pushy. These guys would say I'm sometimes forceful and pushy. But begin with a commitment, things with prayer. Third thing that I think you can do is, as a family, when you're in public, pray. If you're from the Catholic tradition, sign of the cross, say your prayers. If you're not, if you're from the Protestant traditions, pray, but pray in public. It's amazing that when my family does that, my daughter still whispers, but my special needs son, Daniel, he's loud. Everybody hears us praying when Daniel's with us. So, but it's amazing how many people, waitresses, cooks, people that are near you, come up and say, wow, that was really refreshing. That's nice to see. So if you're willing to pray at meal in public, I think God then may give you the moral courage that you need to begin praying in your work environment. And again, I understand if you don't have the influence and you can't do that, but certainly I would suggest you consider doing that. What's the objective? What's the outcome? It's set a different tone for the meetings and the interactions that you will have in your business and work day. It will set a completely different tone because it puts God in the middle of that and all that mess and all the stuff that you got to do. How are we doing for time, Paul? Man, I'm long-winded. Tithing. Again, I had a partner from the very beginning, Paul, who we wanted to pray in our business and we wanted to tithe. 1 Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all evils. See, it's not money that's evil. It's that attachment. It's the love of it. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced their hearts with many pangs. And don't you see that? You read the lives of the successful millionaires and billionaires and how they say they wish they could do it all over again. I know none of us in this room are there. The objective. What's the business objective of this? It will allow the profits in your business, which you should make, abundant profits. I'm very supportive of that, to be in its proper place. And it will free you and your business from that love. If you can tithe personally, or your business can tithe, and thank you to all my partners who allow us to do that in Big Stone Therapies and who are working in their own individual lives to do the best they can for doing that. Tithing will transform you. Relationships and leadership. If you have a chance to set the core values for your department, I can't say it as well as Andreas did about setting values, but one of ours is faith, the other is family, fairness, and fun. We try to live by that. Here's my business partners. Most of them are sitting down right here. Would you guys all raise your hand? I could not do what I do without my business partners. Give them a round of applause, please. Roman, Hillary, Tricia, Wade, Nick, Neil, David, Angela, Angie, Chris, Andrew, Pam, and Kelly. Most of the best advice we said was given to us is don't bring all those people in. Don't do it. But in their talks, they had it right. It's got to be about something bigger than yourself. And these people have bought into our core values, and they create value. What's the objective? Hebrews 10:24 says it well. Let us consider how to stir up one another. These people stir me up. They kick me in the pants. They push me. We call it, when it's tough and we got to work through stuff, making sausage. And sometimes when you make sausage, things get bloody. But I know day after day, week after week, these people will have my back. Do not neglect to meet together. Encourage one another. The objective. If you bring partners or people into your business that will follow your core values, you will become a better servant leader. You will understand it's not about me. Number 2, you'll become a better steward. It's not mine. I'm not going to hang on to it all. I got to give it up. 3, people are precious, and I'll become a better shepherd. Now, God wants to transform us. He doesn't want to have a transactional relationship. This is just a cool sidelight. Have a devotion or 2 that are just kind of yours. 2 of these are old for me, and 1 is very new. The one, no cross, no crown, it's my personal theme. It's just kind of between me and God. I don't say a lot about it, but God and I have a lot of conversations about that theme. Second one, I grew up in Sacred Heart Parish in Westport. I've loved the Sacred Heart for a long time. And I have a special devotion. I pray the Sacred Heart prayer every day, and I give the Sacred Heart a lot of things. This is a new one, a cool one. My son, who left the seminary, gave me this one. My oldest son, Joseph, who was in the seminary a couple of years, he said, "Dad, do you know what guardian angels can do?" I said, "Not really." So he gave me a teaching tape. I read up on the guardian angels, and this is the most underutilized part of my personal faith life. I wished I'd have known this 20 years ago. That guy, my guardian angel, his name is Joseph. I was bold. I wanted to know my guardian angel's name. So I got straight with God, and I found out it was Joseph, same name as my oldest son. And he does some amazing things. He's got me in trouble. So if you want to be transformed, and if you want some spiritual help for the spiritual battles you're going to face, I would suggest getting a devotion to your guardian angel. We up against it? All right. One last thing. As God transforms you, He may ask you to do bigger things than you want to do or think you could. A few years ago, the Benedictine monks of Blue Cloud Abbey decided to close. And these 6 couples here, my wife and myself included, decided that we were going to jump in the middle of buying a monastery and run a retreat ministry. I can't tell you how rewarding that has been. I can't tell you how hard it has been. I can't tell you how it's pushed us as people. But if you're looking for a place to get away, this is the shameless commercial part. The Abbey of the Hills is right up the interstate a couple miles away. It's a beautiful, holy place. It's a place that you can get away and find yourself. The mission of the Abbey is to promote peace within your life and in the diocese. So with that being said, I want to urge you all, by the mercies of God, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Do not conform yourselves to this age. He's saying this 2,000 years ago when it's still true today. Do not conform yourselves to this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and pleasing and perfect. I've shared with you my stories, some of the strategies that I've used, that God's put in front of me, and some of the objectives and the outcomes that have happened for me. Thank you very much, and may God bless the work of your hands.